Curb Servers, episode 17, raw and unedited. Now, I already explained how the block was put together and its original members. Although, I forgot a few. I got all kind of people hitting me up. You forgot about Face. Hey, you forgot about D-String. You forgot about Aunt Minnie. You forgot about Kenesha. Shannon little sister name is Tyshawn. You know, I got y'all. Jack little sister name is Naisha. I got y'all. I told y'all. I'm going to forget a few people, but I'll bring them back. I'm going to bring back Uncle E. I'm going to bring these names back. Now, we're going to talk about how the Curve Serving Crew was put together. The Curve Serving Crew was put together through the marriage of two different blocks. Let me break this down. See, if you go back, I already explained that Jax and Edie is responsible for introducing Jamaican crack dealers into the community, which dropped the game onto a bunch of youngsters that became a crew. Now, we're not here to just talk about that, because that's not disputed. That's Jax and Edie. That's why they're the central figures of the Curve Serving universe, because they brought the Jamaican crack dealers into the community. Now, but we're not here to talk about that. Let's move past that. We're here to talk about how a crew was put together to receive this game, to come up with these Jamaicans. This crew was put together by two different blocks. See, you had the block, or Century Boulevard, and you had the El Tikis. Now, I always told y'all, if you go back and listen, the El Tikis and the block have always had a very tight relationship. Now you're going to understand how and why. See, if you go back to the beginning of the block, when I was a little kid, Little Wino and Edie moved on the block when I was like 5. They moved on the block from right down the street from the Otikis, about a block up. So their mother and their family was very tight with some of the families in the Otikis prior to moving on the block. Now, how come Little Wino and Edie's mother was tight with some families in the Otikis? Because one of the ladies that lived in the Otikis, who I call my Aunt Jackie, she worked with Little Wino moms. And so they had a relationship, and they would all hang out at the Otikis even before Little Wino even moved on the block. Now, my mom also worked at the same place that Little Wino mom worked at and Aunt Jackie worked at, which is Freak Daddy Cav's mom, if you go back to the Curve Serving universe. Now, these three women were co-workers, and they would all hang out and play cards and drink and do whatever they were doing at their age, in their prime, going over in Watts, hanging out in the Otikis. Now, there's a few families or a few members that's going to become part of this Curve Serving universe that comes out of the Otikis. You got Dirt Bike, that's an Otiki family member that's going to come out and become part of the Curve Serving crew. Matter of fact, he's going to be the leader of the Curve Serving crew. You got Maze, who's from the Otikis, who's going to come and really bring that crippin' to the block. You got Zeke, that's from the Otikis. If you go back to the Curve Serving stories, he the one that's kept Little Wino and me from getting punched out by the Bloods in Inglewood when we got caught slipping at the wash house. And the homies from 7-4 got the brakes beat off of them. If you go back and check the stories. Then you got Sticks. You got Lady V. And Lady V, she's important because her baby daddy become a prime member in the Curve serving universe. This is how he get his pass onto the block through Lady V. We'll talk about him later. That's the homie. We'll call him Big Mo. That's the homie Big Mo. Now, there's many other characters. The homie John John, the homie Low. There's plenty of characters from the Otikis. You know, Black 7, he doesn't really become a prominent Curve serving member, but he's an Otiki block family member who's very close to us, obviously, because our blocks are close, and he becomes a superstar athlete. But we'll talk about that later. Now, through Little Wino's mom and my mom, we have these relationships in the El Tikis through Big Jackie or Auntie Jackie. Some people call her Big Jackie, some people call her Auntie Jackie because she has a daughter named Jackie. Now, these members and a lot of their friends that we don't grow up with are going to be pulled into this Curve serving universe by Dirt Bike. See, Dirt Bike is the prime member that's going to come over from the El Tikis that's going to become the leader of this Curve serving crew. Let me break this down. See, not only Little Wino used to live right down the street from the El Tikis, and his mother was friends with Aunt Jackie, who lived in the El Tikis, like my mother was. When he moved over there on the block, a few years later, Aunt Jackie, 2 sons, moved on the block. So now we got Freddie and Ray and Freak Daddy Kev living on the block. Because originally they didn't live on the block, they're from the Otikis. But when a spot came open, through how, the blocks are messing with each other, the families are telling them, hey, there's an apartment open over here. And yeah, Freddie and Ray and Kevin moved to the block, which is original El Tiki boys. Now, when they come to the block, a couple of their friends come with them. One of them name is Zeke, and the other one name is Dirt Bike. They come because they're boys. These are their childhood friends from the Otikis. Although Dirt Bike is from all over parts of Watts. He's over there from by the Grapes, he's over by the PJs, the Nut Hoods. He kind of grew up with all of them. That's why he doesn't gangbang. He's just a Watts hustler. He hustles through all their hoods. Let's really talk about it. Now, the Otiki boys, as they move onto the block, they become part of the fabric of the community. Because our blocks already really knew each other well, but now they moved onto the block and their friends. Now, Little Wino and myself, we knew who Dirt Bike was and Maze was and Zeke was and, all their friends and family, Pose and, Lady V and, now Lady V, her baby daddy is going to be a prime member on the block. We're just going to call him Big Mo for now. Now, all these members are going to start coming over because of Freddie, Ray, and Freak Daddy Kev is living on the block, and all their people from the Otikis is coming on the block because they're like, oh, they know my family. They know. Now, Little Wino has his Aunt Minnie and his cousin Face and, all them on the block. And so now, everybody knows everybody. So this is how the Curve serving crew was put together. It's put together by when Freddie and Ray move on the block from the Otikis, and they bring their friends with them, Dirt Bike and Zeke, but particularly Dirt Bike. Dirt Bike, he starts to entrench himself into the community. He's no longer just, a guy who moved over there. He's a guy that knows how to read the room. He knows how to deal a deck of cards. He's a hustler. So he's looking around. And his family obviously knows Little Wino family, and my family, because our parents are always over there in the Otikis with his parents. Little Wino's mom and my mom and Dirt Bike mom are all friends, as they're friends with Big Jackie, right? So these are just all a bunch of, old lady friends. And we are the children of these people coming together from different blocks to make a crew. So as this crew starts to marinate, it's not selling crack yet. It's just different blocks coming together, being homies, talking to girls, and a lot of the Tiki boys are talking to our girls, and, we like girls on that side of town, and, that kind of thing. It's like a marriage. But eventually, Jack shows up. Now, Jack is an original Century Block girl too. But, like I said, she's always running all over the place. She's a real street girl. She's a real, was out there early and know the streets well. So when she pops back in the neighborhood, she leaves, she comes. You just never know where she's at. She's always a little faster than most of the girls in our neighborhood. Usually when she pulls up on the block, she's the quickest, if you know what I mean. Now, she pulls up on the block with the gang, with the Jamaican boyfriend, who's the crack dealer. And now you got all these youngsters on the block that get this game dropped in their lap because Edie, boyfriend, allows Little Wino, Danny Boy, and myself to go work out of his crack house. And eventually, through all kind of small adventures, we run back to the community for safety, and we got this game. And Little Wino can't help it. He wanna continue this game he just learned, and Dirt Bike is, he's learning this game. He's coming back from Bakersfield talking about, yeah, I just learned this game. And Little Wino's like, yeah, we was working in the trap houses, and he's like, yeah, I know, and yeah, and then eventually, the Curve Serving crew begins. This is the end of Curve Servers, episode 17. Get ready. We're coming back with episode 18.